Everyone knows the basic story. It's 1799, and French soldiers under Napoleon are digging fortifications in the Egyptian town of Rosetta. An officer named Pierre Francois Bouchard spots a broken stone with strange inscriptions being used as building material. It's a puzzle. 3 scripts, one of which is ancient Greek, a language scholars could still read. The immediate, electrifying thought was that this stone could be the key to the other 2 mysterious scripts, the everyday cursive, known as demonic, and the beautiful, enigmatic pictures of the hieroglyphs. But it's only half the story, because the moment you ask a simple question, the whole narrative shifts. The actual text on the stone is, well, mind-numbingly dull. It's a bureaucratic decree from a council of priests, listing the good deeds of a teenage king. Think of it as an ancient government press release. So why? Why go to the immense trouble of carving this mundane message into a massive 760-kilogram slab of granodiorite? Why did the decree order copies to be set up in temples all across the kingdom? And most importantly, why write it in 3 different scripts? The answer isn't about translation. It's about desperation, evasion, and a last-ditch effort to hold a crumbling kingdom together with propaganda. This is the Rosetta Stone. For 2 centuries, we've thought of it mainly as one thing, the key that unlocked the lost language of the pharaohs. We see it as the tool that gave a dead civilization its voice back. We celebrate it for what it taught us to read. But the true secret of the Rosetta Stone isn't just what it says. It's why it had to say it in 3 different ways. This isn't just a slab of rock. Modern historians widely see it as a carefully crafted piece of political machinery. It's a tool forged not of bronze or iron, but of language itself. The real secret of this stone isn't the dead language it brought back to life, but the dying empire it was meant to save. A kingdom on fire. To understand the stone's real message, we have to go back to the year it was carved, 196 BC, and we have to see the world through the eyes of its king. Ptolemy v. Egypt at this time was not the all-powerful empire of its glorious past. This was a land in turmoil, a fractured society ruled by foreigners. Vast territories had been lost to rival empires. More critically, a massive rebellion, known as the Great Revolt, had raged for years. This wasn't a small skirmish. It was a secessionist movement. Rebels in Upper Egypt had crowned their own native pharaoh, splitting the country in 2. The Rosetta Stone itself mentions Ptolemy's brutal suppression of another rebel group, boasting how he besieged a town and slaughtered the rebels inside. This was not a king ruling from a position of strength. This was a boy king, a foreigner, clinging to power. His dynasty was seen as illegitimate by millions of his subjects. He was facing a massive legitimacy crisis. How could a teenage Greek king hope to control this volatile situation? He couldn't do it with armies alone. He had to win hearts and minds. He needed a weapon of mass communication. He needed propaganda. And his ultimate tool was the Rosetta Stone. 1 message, 3 targets. The genius of the Rosetta Stone is not in the content, but in the calculated choice of its 3 scripts. It was a single political ad, expertly tailored to speak to the 3 groups whose support Ptolemy V desperately needed: the ancient priesthood, the native Egyptian bureaucracy, and the Greek ruling class. First, at the top, were the hieroglyphs. By 196 BC, hieroglyphics were already an ancient, sacred script, the words of the gods. The only people who could still reliably read and write it were the members of the powerful and conservative Egyptian priesthood. They were the guardians of tradition, and their support was essential for any ruler to be seen as a legitimate pharaoh. By carving his decree in their sacred language, Ptolemy V sent a flattering message. I recognize your ancient authority. I honor your traditions. I need your blessing to be a true pharaoh. It was a brilliant move, co-opting the symbols of old Egyptian power to legitimize a new foreign ruler. Next on the stone was the Demotic script. If hieroglyphs were for the gods, Demotic was for the people, or at least for daily business. This was the cursive script used for legal documents, tax records, and administrative letters. This was aimed at the backbone of the state, the scribes, local officials, and merchants who kept the kingdom running. By using Demotic, Ptolemy was saying, "My rule is official, and it affects your daily life. The decrees I make apply to you in your own language." It was a practical message of inclusion, aimed at ensuring the smooth operation of his government. Finally, at the bottom, was ancient Greek. This was the language of the Ptolemaic dynasty itself, the court, the army, and the entire upper administration. The Greek text was the legally binding version for the ruling class. It affirmed their status and made the king's promises clear to those who held power on his behalf. It also served as an international press release. Greek was the common language of the Eastern Mediterranean, so the decree was designed to project an image of stability and strength to the outside world, at a time when the dynasty was incredibly vulnerable. So you have three scripts, each a masterstroke of targeted communication. To the priests, I honor your traditions. To the bureaucrats, I am your administrator. To the Greek elite, I am your king. It was a single message of power, split and focused to hit each audience with maximum impact. The content of the propaganda. The decree is a laundry list of benevolent acts. It announces that Ptolemy V has given massive tax cuts, specifically canceling or reducing debts owed to the crown by both the temples and the general population. In a kingdom crippled by war and economic hardship, this was a sure way to gain public support. It also declares an amnesty for prisoners, a populist move aimed at showing mercy and fostering a sense of a new beginning. The decree also details Ptolemy's huge financial support for the temples. He provided money, grain, and silver to the priesthood and ordered the restoration of shrines. This was a direct payment for the loyalty of the powerful priestly class. He was, quite literally, buying their endorsement. Finally, the text celebrates his military might, praising his successful, if brutal, campaigns against rebels. The message was clear. Ptolemy V is not just generous and pious. He is strong enough to crush his enemies and bring order. When you put it all together, the picture is clear. The Rosetta Stone isn't a dictionary. It's a propaganda poster carved in stone. The stone itself ends with the instruction that copies of the decree should be set up in temples across Egypt, right next to a statue of the king himself. It was an ancient mass media campaign, broadcasting a message of legitimacy and power to every corner of a fractured kingdom. We often think of history being made through great battles, but sometimes the most powerful tool isn't a sword, it's a story. The struggle for control is a struggle over the narrative. If you find this hidden side of history as fascinating as I do, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell for more stories hidden in ancient artifacts. A message lost and found. So, did the propaganda campaign work? In the short term, maybe. Ptolemy V held on to his throne. The Great Revolt was eventually suppressed, and the dynasty staggered on for another century and a half. But ultimately, it was a holding action. The deep divisions in Egyptian society never healed. The Ptolemaic kingdom continued its slow decline, plagued by internal strife and the growing shadow of Rome. The last Ptolemaic ruler, Cleopatra VII, would ultimately lose her kingdom, and Egypt would become a Roman province. The dynasty the Rosetta Stone was meant to save collapsed. The stone itself was lost to time. The temples fell into ruin. Knowledge of how to read the ancient scripts died out. By the 4th century AD, no one on earth could read hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone, this brilliant tool of political communication, was eventually broken, and used as building material in a fort. Its carefully crafted messages were now silent. And yet, in one of history's greatest ironies, the stone's failure as propaganda led to its ultimate, unintended success. Because its creators were so desperate to communicate with everyone, they created the perfect tool for future decryption. By putting the same text in 3 scripts, including one that the modern world could still read, they preserved the key to their entire civilization. The message intended to save a single failing dynasty ended up unlocking the voices of the 30 dynasties that came before it. The next time you see a picture of the Rosetta Stone, or see it for yourself in the British Museum, don't just see it as a dictionary. Don't just think of Shangpalium and the race to decipher a lost language. See it for what it truly was in its own time. A desperate, brilliant, and ultimately failed attempt to use language as a tool of power. Its true message was never about tax cuts or temple donations. The message was the medium itself. It was a declaration carved in stone that said, "This kingdom is fractured. We have 3 different cultures, 3 different languages, 3 different realities, and one, Ptolemy V, am the only one who can speak to all of them. I am the only one who can hold this broken world together."